Disaster recovery focuses on restoring technology services after major interruption events, and it exists to bring systems back to a trustworthy state when normal operations have been severely disrupted.
These events can include widespread outages, destructive incidents, environmental damage, or cascading failures that overwhelm routine response processes. The emphasis is not on preventing every failure, but on preparing for the moment when prevention is no longer sufficient and recovery becomes the priority. Disaster recovery planning creates a structured path from disruption to restoration, reducing guesswork when systems are unstable and pressure is high. When done well, it shortens outages, limits data loss, and restores confidence that the organization can recover even from serious events.
Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to the CISS books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series.
Disaster recovery planning emphasizes systems, data, facilities, and infrastructure restoration sequencing because not everything can or should be recovered at the same time.
Sequencing defines which components must be restored first to enable others, preventing wasted effort and circular dependencies. Systems depend on infrastructure, applications depend on platforms, and business services depend on all of them functioning together. Facilities matter because physical access, power, and environmental controls may be required before technology can be safely restored. By planning restoration order deliberately, organizations avoid common failures, where teams rebuild isolated components that cannot operate because prerequisite services are still unavailable. Recovery time objective defines the maximum acceptable outage duration for a service, and it expresses how quickly functionality must be restored to avoid unacceptable consequences. This objective is a business-driven requirement, not a technical aspiration, because it reflects tolerance for downtime rather than convenience of recovery. Shorter objectives generally require greater investment in redundancy, automation, and readiness, while longer objectives allow for more manual and cost-conscious approaches. Recovery time objective values influence architecture, backup strategy, staffing expectations, and escalation thresholds. When these objectives are clearly defined and agreed upon, recovery decisions during an incident become more disciplined and less reactive.
Recovery point objective defines the maximum acceptable data loss measured by time, and it clarifies how much information the organization is willing to lose in a disruption. This objective reflects tolerance for losing recent transactions, updates, or records, and it varies widely depending on the nature of the data. Systems that process financial transactions or safety-critical information often require very small loss windows, while other systems may tolerate longer gaps. Recovery point objective directly shapes backup frequency, replication design, and storage cost because more frequent capture of data increases resource demands. Clear objectives prevent unrealistic expectations and help teams align technical design with business consequence.
Recovery tiers categorize systems by criticality and required restoration speed, creating a practical way to manage complexity during recovery. Tiering acknowledges that not all systems are equal in importance or urgency, and it groups them based on recovery objectives and dependency relationships. Higher-tier systems typically support essential services and require rapid restoration, while lower-tier systems can be recovered later without immediate harm. Tier definitions help recovery teams focus attention where it matters most during the chaotic early stages of an event. Over time, tiers also guide investment decisions by highlighting which systems justify higher resilience and which do not. Backup methods include full, incremental, differential, and continuous replication, and each method carries trade-offs in speed, cost, and complexity. Full backups capture complete system or data states, but require more time in storage. Incremental backups capture only changes since the last backup, reducing resource use but increasing restoration complexity. Differential backups strike a balance by capturing changes since the last full backup, simplifying restore chains at the cost of larger backup sizes. Continuous replication provides near real-time copies, but requires robust infrastructure and careful consistency management. Choosing among these methods depends on recovery objectives, data criticality, and operational constraints. Restoration steps cover rebuild, configuration, validation, and controlled reintroduction, ensuring that recovered systems are not only available but trustworthy. Rebuild includes provisioning infrastructure and installing base software in a clean and known state. Configuration applies security settings, network parameters, and integrations so that systems behave as intended. Validation confirms that data integrity is preserved, services function correctly, and controls operate as expected before exposure to users. Controlled reintroduction manages how systems are brought back into production, reducing the risk of overload or cascading failure. Skipping or rushing these steps often leads to secondary incidents that prolong disruption.
Alternate processing capabilities include hot, warm, and cold site options, which describe different levels of readiness for recovery environments. Hot sites are fully operational replicas that can assume workload quickly, supporting very short recovery times at higher cost. Warm sites provide partial readiness, requiring additional configuration or data synchronization before becoming operational. Cold sites offer space and basic infrastructure, but require significant setup time before use. Each option represents a trade-off between speed, complexity, and expense, and organizations often mix approaches across system tiers. Understanding these distinctions helps align recovery strategy with business tolerance and investment capacity.
Continuity of operations ensures that leadership and essential functions remain active even when primary facilities or systems are unavailable. This concept extends beyond technology to include command authority, decision-making capability, and access to critical information. Leadership continuity may require alternate locations, secure communications, and delegated authority structures to function effectively during disruption. Essential functions include not only revenue-generating activities, but also governance, safety, and regulatory responsibilities. By planning for continuity of operations, organizations ensure that recovery efforts are guided and coordinated rather than fragmented. Failover and fail-back processes require coordination, timing, and verification checkpoints to prevent data corruption and service instability. Failover moves operations from a primary environment to an alternate one when disruption occurs, and it must be executed carefully to avoid split processing or inconsistent state. Failback returns operations to the primary environment after recovery, which can be more complex than failover because data must be reconciled and services synchronized. Verification checkpoints ensure that systems are stable, data is consistent, and dependencies are satisfied before transitions occur. Poorly managed transitions can create outages even after infrastructure is restored, so discipline in these processes is critical. Dependencies include identity services, network connectivity, storage systems, applications, and third-party services, all of which must align for recovery to succeed. Identity services are often foundational because authentication and authorization must function before users and systems can operate. Network connectivity enables communication among components and access to external services. Storage systems hold data required by applications and must be available and consistent. Third-party services introduce external dependencies that may be affected by the same event or by separate disruptions. Mapping these dependencies prevents recovery plans from assuming availability where none exists.
Testing approaches include tabletop exercises, technical recovery drills, and parallel operations, each providing different insight into readiness. Tabletop exercises validate decision-making, communication, and role clarity without touching production systems. Technical recovery drills test actual restoration steps, revealing gaps in procedures, tooling, and access. Parallel operations involve running recovered systems alongside production to validate behavior before full cutover. Testing builds muscle memory and exposes assumptions that documentation alone cannot reveal. Organizations that test regularly recover faster and with fewer surprises when real events occur.
Plan governance includes ownership, change control, and evidence retention requirements, ensuring that recovery plans remain accurate and defensible over time.
Ownership clarifies who is responsible for maintaining the plan and coordinating updates as systems change. Change control ensures that modifications to architecture, vendors, or processes are reflected in recovery procedures. Evidence retention supports audits, compliance, and after-action reviews by preserving proof of testing, approvals, and execution. Governance prevents recovery planning from becoming a one-time exercise that quietly degrades. When governance is strong, recovery capability evolves with the organization rather than lagging behind it. In conclusion, disaster recovery planning and continuity of operations define how technology and leadership are restored and sustained after severe disruption. Recovery objectives establish expectations for downtime and data loss, shaping technical and operational design. Tiering, backup strategies, and alternate processing options provide practical tools for meeting those objectives under constraints. Restoration sequencing, dependency management, and transition discipline prevent recovery from creating additional instability. Testing and governance keep plans realistic, current, and trustworthy. Together, these practices ensure that when disruption occurs, the organization can restore services and continue operating with purpose rather than improvisation.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.